So President Obama once again reportedly looking to sidestep Congress. This situation to get the world's biggest leaders in the economy is to sign a UN treaty to cut their fossil fuel emissions without the constitutionally required congressional treaty approval on this. The climate change deal would reportedly be classified instead as a binding agreement. Semantics, perhaps, but how's this going to go over with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle? Joined by Chris Plante, radio talk show host, and Leslie Marshall, also radio talk show host and Fox News contributor. Chris, Leslie, welcome. Good to have you both here. It seems like such a strange segue. At 1 minute we're talking about a mother who is pleading for her son's life. We're talking about the huge decision that the president has to make as to whether or not to go back to war in full in Syria and in Iraq. And for some reason, Leslie, he's chosen to focus at this moment on climate change, it appears.
Well, I don't think he's focusing just on climate change. I mean, we know that he's coming up with a decision with regard to Syria and ISIS. But I do think that the president is in a position, as every world leader is, to not be able to avoid the inevitable. We're not just talking about environmental problems. We're talking about health problems worldwide. And what's happening is the international community realizes that the president's not going to have the 67 votes that he needs in the Senate and support for a treaty to be ratified. So basically they're saying, hey, look, how do we do this? How do we get around this, if you will, legally? And that's exactly what they're doing. You're correct. It's a binding agreement, and this would have the wealthiest nations, in a sense, promise to cut their emissions to a certain level and to help the poorer countries adapt to climate change going forward.
But as Leslie's pointed out, Chris, it looks like he doesn't have the votes to do this in Congress. And wouldn't that be an indication that, that's where the sentiment lies on this issue?
That would indicate precisely that. That's our system of government, which Barack Obama apparently doesn't have a great deal of use for. And this is just the latest example of the president holding our system of government in contempt. He doesn't have the 67 votes, and it's not just Republicans, it's Democrats, too.
That's right.
That are against the crazy cap and trade that would hobble our economy, kill jobs, and not cure the problem that they're seeking to cure. But the president, once again, just has no use for the branches of government, for the Constitution of the United States. He's the president of the left wing of his party, and it's another hand grenade that he's rolled down the aisle here. It doesn't solve a problem. It probably violates the law and the constitutional powers of the president of the United States. Hey, but at least it's polarizing.
Well, there's a couple of issues that it appears the president and the administration feel they could get in their corner heading into the midterm elections. Perhaps that's one on the checklist that needs to be satisfied in terms of the base. And here's another one. And Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio weighing in on this. He's warning the president that he shouldn't take executive action when it comes to immigration. He wrote a letter to the president and he said this: I have grown increasingly alarmed by news that your administration is considering sweeping executive action to give work permits to millions of people here illegally, adding it will, quote, close the door to any chance of making progress on immigration reform for the foreseeable future. Leslie, what do you make of this?
Oh, boy. Okay, you know what this reminds me of, Martha? This is, nobody's paying attention to me. This is what I think happening with Marco Rubio. This is a guy who, quite frankly and admirably, was willing to work and did work with Democrats, Schumer and Reid, and in a sense was poo-pooed by his own party for that. So we had a rise of the Republican Party and a fall. He was backing and pushing immigration reform, and now he has backed off because he's looking at 2016 and a presidential run. This is nothing but political and hopefully for him, in his eyes, political gain for Marco Rubio. This is not a genuine concern for immigration reform. And Republicans, with or without Rubio, in the future, very soon, in the next 5 to 10 years, are going to have to do something with regard to immigration reform, and they're never going to win elections.
It's true that Marco Rubio put himself out on a limb and did seek to find some bipartisan immigration reform. But back to the president here for a moment and the things that he wants to deal with ahead of the election. Chris, what do you make of this move?
Well, it's not actually about Marco Rubio. The Democrats will attempt to make it about Marco Rubio and try to smear him and slime him and damage him going forward politically, which is what the Democrats do. This is about a member of the United States Senate standing up for our system of government and the Constitution and the separation of powers. This is a question of the separation of powers being abused once again, here we are twice in one day, by the Obama administration and President Obama. The Democrats can try to make it about Marco Rubio, but for adults, and I'd like to see Democrats in the Senate stand up for this, because they're setting all kinds of horrendous precedents here that going forward there will be Republican presidents in the future, maybe very soon. And if Democrats love and wallow this abuse of power, I fear for the future of the republic.
Chris and Leslie, thank you very much. See you next time, guys.
Thanks, Martha.
Thank you, Martha.